Hi. Bayonne, the city and the commune in the southwest of France in department the Atlantic Pyrenees of the administrative region near Aquitaine. Bayonne is located near the Atlantic coast at confluence Adour and Niam, near northern border of Spain. In the city there is a large operating port which is the main center of economic activity of all French part of the Basque country. On combination of circumstances, being at a boundary between Languedoc and the Basque lands, Bayonne has the status of the economic capital of a river basin Adour and also is a starting point for the tourists going to the Pyrenees from France. In the city the modern industry, metallurgy and chemical products. Thanks to a possibility of supply of coal and ore by sea from other countries is developed. In the ancient time Bayonne was called Laperdum, by name the Roman camp which was in the place of the modern city, having given the name of the historical and geographical Laperdun area. In the city the bishop's throne of Bayonne is located for a long time. In the 4th century in the city Novum Popularis cohort was billeted. The name Bayonne began to be used at the beginning of the 12th century when in 1140 Amory Pico's pilgrim wrote the earth of Basques and their city of Bayonne on the seashore. Geography. Bayonne is located in the territory of the historical province of Laperdun, on border between the Basque lands and Gascony. Her territory has a flat landscape in the west and in the north. Extensive areas of the landscape woods, tending to small increase in the south and east, that is in the direction of the area of the Pyrenees. Through the city the Adour River into which directly in the territory of the city the Nive River flows. Across the territory of the commune the small streams falling into Niam and Adour also proceed. History. A set of the traces of stay of the person in the neighborhood of the commune dated the Middle Paleolithic, in particular the artifacts found in Saint-Pierre-d'Arubis revealed. Throughout Adour's estuaria, in the location of Bayonne width of the course is minimum, allowing to cross easier and quicker the river. The last archaeological finds made at the end of 1995 allow to assume with high probability that the person inhabited these lands in the 3rd century. In Bayonne the hill towering near the place of merge the field with Adour is recognized as the most ancient site of dwelling of the person. In the 1st century B.C., during an era of the Roman gain, Bayonne already represented a certain importance as Romans surrounded the city with the strengthened wall. In this territory the tribe of Tarbel belonging to nationality of Aquitaine lived. Existence here of the Roman castrum approximately at the end of the 4th century is recognized. This strengthened settlement of Novem Popularis was called Laperdum, and from this name there was a name of the historical and geographical Laperdun area or Lapurdi in Basque. This Roman settlement was of strategic importance as allowed Romans to keep under control of the road, passing through the Pyrenees and also rebellious local population. According to historians, the square of the settlement made from 8 to 10 hectares. Middle Ages. During the early period of the history the settlement changed the accessory 3 times. In Romans Vascona and then, throughout 3 centuries. From 12th to the 15th century. British consistently owned. Romans left the city in the 4th century and control over Novem Popularis. The province between Garonne, Ocean and the Pyrenees was received by the Vascona, which were constantly living in these parts. During this period Novem Populana received the name Vasconia, and then Gascony, under the German influence. Invasion of Visigoths, and then Franks. Implementation of the Basque culture in the region was very weak in comparison with the previous deep Romanization. Owing to mixture of Visconti language with Latin Gascon language appeared. After formation of a Vicomtство Laburden in 1023 by his capital became Bayonne. In 1130 the King of Aragon Alfonso Voitel tried to take to Bayonne by storm, but unsuccessfully. Bayonne passed under dominion of British owing to a marriage of the Duchess of Aquitaine, Eleanor, with future English king in 1152. Thanks to this alliance Bayonne received a set of trade privileges. Bayonne's inhabitants acquired monopoly of transportation to England of the Bordeaux wines and other goods of the southwest of France, including woodpitch, gammons and vegetable dyes. Bayonne was also a powerful military base where there was a shipyard and there was a great number of seamen. In 1177 the King of England Richard I de Lionheart separated Bayonne from a Vicomtство Laburden whose capital was a city of Ustaritz. Like a set of other cities of that era, Bayonne received the Charter of Liberty in 1215 and was exempted from feudal influence. Union, being Joan of Arc's colleague, without the special victims the city took on August 20, 1451 and attached it to lands of the French crown as Bayonne's bishop advised against two citizens to battle against royal troops. Kings of France also continued to strengthen the city as the Spanish border was very close. In 1454 the King Charles VII founded the certain judicial district, a seneschalstvo lands, which received powers of implementation of civil justice in the big region including Bayonne, Dax and Seine North. Criminal offences were left in competence of Echevin. Eventually, being in the next Dax, swords, I lost any role, except legal, and Bayonne, along with Dax and Saint Nort, became de facto the isolated seneschalstvo under control of the first deputy. In May 1462 the King of France Louis XI, right after the conclusion of the Bayonne contract, welcomed the royal diploma allowing to organize fairs 2 times a year. Later in July 1472, he confirmed city coutume on the occasion of the death of the brother the Duc d'En. The period of prosperity of Bayonne came to the end in the 15th century after loss of monopoly on trade with British and also because of silting of Bayonne's port, for a reason for a rejection of the course of Adur to the north. Good luck for a while smiled to Caperton's inhabitants. The 16th century. At the beginning of the 16th century Laburdana came to lands plague. Reading the Gascon register allows to track distribution of a pandemic. In July 1515 Bayonne ceased to accept people from infected with pestilence regions, and on October 21, to all peasants and Bayonne citizens forbade to visit a rival Bidar in order to avoid infection with plague. On April 11, 1518 plague already raged in Saint-Jean-de-Luz and to Bayonne citizens, forbade to maintain any relations with inhabitants of a rival of Saint-Jean-de-Luz where people died of plague. On November 11, 1518 plague extended in Bayonne to such an extent that the city council moved to the settlement of Anglet. In 1523 the Marshal Lothric showed heroic resistance to Spaniards, having forced them to raise Bayonne's siege. In the 16th century Royal Engineers quickly conducted works on the Adour River deviation to her former course. After that the port in Bayonne could resume the activity. Catching of a COD and whaling considerably increased welfare of local fishermen and shipowners. When Christopher Columbus peddled old stuff, on the Iberian Peninsula Inquisition raged and the Jews who left Spain and, mainly, Portugal located in the Bayonne quarter of Saint-Esprit. They were engaged in import of chocolate to France. In 1565 there was a Caterina Medici's meeting with the Duke Alba, the envoy of the King of Spain Philip II, who became history under the name appointment in Bayonne. When in some parts of the French kingdom fierce fights between Catholics and Protestants were developed, Bayonne was succeeded to avoid these disorders as the city department was in an iron hand. Really, city governors of Bayonne never hesitated to apply criminal penalty and power measures to maintenance of an order, being guided by the principles of public benefit. This period is brightly personified by two brothers, Soba and Joan Sorcando, both serving as Bayonne deputy mayors in the second half of the 16th century. They constantly fluctuated between Catholicism and Protestantism, giving at the same time a priority to unity and reputation of the city. From 1611 to 1612 Bayonne's college was headed by the 26-year-old director of a name Cornelius Jansini, future Bishop of Parisian. Thus, Bayonne for some time became a cradle of a severe and intricate Jansenism which managed to shake strongly Louis XIV's monarchy. During the sporadic armed conflicts happening on the French plains in the middle of the 17th century, Bayonne's peasants often suffered a shortage of gunpowder and bullets. They began to adjoin hunting knives trunks of the muskets, receiving improvised a spear which began to be called bayonet joints subsequently. In the same century the French military engineer Vauban received the order to strengthen the city of Bayonne from the King Louis XIV. He constructed a powerful citadel on the height in the quarter of Saint-Esprit. In the 18th century the economic activity in Bayonne reached the apogee. In 1726 in Bayonne the Chamber of Commerce and Industry was founded. Port activity was very rough trade with Spain, Holland, the Antilles, catching of a COD on shallows of Newfoundland, construction of port buildings. In 1792 the quarter of Saint-Esprit located on the right coast of Adour was separated from Bayonne and a new commune was called by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Porter was returned to Bayonne's list only on June 1, 1857. For 65 years the independent commune was a part of the next department of Landa. In 1808 in Marek, in the conditions of friendly pressing of the Emperor Napoleon, the King of Spain Charles IV signed the Act of Renunciation in favor of Joseph Bonaparte. After this the Bayonne Constitution, which became the first Spanish constitution, was paraphed. The trade, which was the cornerstone of well-being of the city in the 18th century, was significantly reduced during this period because of trade sanctions against Spain, the main trade partner of the region at the time. End of this period of history was noted by DNSC John May 5, 1814 within the Spanish Revolution of 1808-1814 when the Napoleonic army under command of the Marshal Soult capitulated in the face of coalition troops under command of Wellington. The 19th century. In 1854 there was here a railroad by which from Paris there arrived a great number of the tourists wishing to have a rest on beaches of Biarritz. Having smithies on Edo, Bayonne began to develop the sector of ferrous metallurgy actively. The port began to increase industrial specialization, however the volume of cargo transportation gradually decreased and almost stopped in the 20th century. Opening of the gas field in Lache recovered port activity in Bayonne for some time. On December 2, 1856 the Bayonne contract between France and Spain which defined territory accessory near the mouth of the river Bidasso more precisely was signed, having established border between Navarre and Aragon. The 20th century. In the morning on Saturday, December 23, 1933 the sub-prefect Intel accepted Gustave Tissy, the director of the Bayonne branch of the Bank of Credit Municipal. The subject of the story of the banker will begin to be called later, Fraud of a Century. Several days later in the Bayonne newspaper Le Courrier de Bayonne there was a message that Tissy, the director of Credit Municipal, is arrested and taken into custody on a charge of a fake, to use of false documents and embezzlement of budget funds. He produced several thousands of fictitious debt obligations of Credit Municipal Bank. This event became the beginning of a high-profile case of Stavisky which led to a political crisis in France and to Massachusetts riots in Paris on February 6, 1934. On August 21, 1944 Bayonne was abandoned by the German invaders, previously having blown up in the water area of port of nearly 20 vessels. Next day through the city the last column from 5 German cars with agents of Gestapo and soldiers of Feldgendarmerie passed. On the run Germans opened automatic fire, having killed 3 civilians at the intersection of Saint-Lien, near the station and on approaches of a citadel. On August 23 the informal, special municipal delegation, at the initiative of the sub-prefect Guy Lamassoure representing provisional government of the French Republic was formed. Representatives of noble family were Greymen at first operating, and then in Bayonne as governors since 1472 and up to 1789. The license for a position of the Mayor Bayonne was bought by Anton II Greymen from the King of France Henry IV on January 28, 1590 and further was descended. Ramenave in Bayonne since the 15th century was the residence the New Lac and then, since the end of the 16th century, the Old Castle. Economy. Bayonne is the shopping and economic center of 3 Basque provinces located to the north from the Pyrenees: Le Bourdon, Lower Navarre and to Zuber. Her influence also extends to the southern part of the next department of Landa. The activity of the port of Bayonne still is at the high level. The importance of port grew after discovery of the field of natural gas in the city of Lac. The port of Bayonne is located in the mouth of the Adour River. His territory partially occupies the earth of communes of Anglet and Bucco in department the Atlantic Pyrenees and also communes Tarnos in Landes department. The port of Bayonne takes the 9th place among the trade ports of France. Since 1997 the annual volume of the freights passing through port exceeds 4 million tons. Through this port, the regional industrial and food products made in Landes departments and the Atlantic Pyrenees are exported. Sulfur is byproduct of purification of natural gas. Oil extracted in Lach. Corn. Fertilizers. Wood. In Bayonne there is a steel works on scrap metal processing. Ford and General Motors car makers chose Bayonne as the logistics center from where the cars assembled in Spain and Portugal extend across the whole Europe. The port has the separate terminal of storage of petrochemical products, liquid chemical products. To the port of Bayonne, the products pipeline from Lach where extract natural gas is laid. The historic center of the city is divided into 3 quarters. The Quarter of Saint-Esprit, Quarter of the Holy Spirit, located on the right coast of Adour where Vauban's citadel towers. The Quarter of Grand Bayonne, Big Bayonne, located on Adour and Niam's left coast where there is an old castle and street. Mary's Cathedral. The Quarter of Petit Bayonne, Small Bayonne, is located between the Adour and Nive rivers. Quarter of Saint-Esprit. Saint-Esprit's Church. This quarter was formed in the 12th century and initially was the national city quarter where foreigners and immigrants lodged. Sometime quarter was the independent commune, Saint-Esprit de Bayonne, as a part of the district of Dax of Department of Landes. The commune was included in Bayonne's list in 1857. The monks of the Award of Hospitalier of Saint of the Spirit who founded a shelter on Pilgrim St. James Road became the first residents of the quarter, and the quarter received a name by the name of this award. Sheltered was an important stop of pilgrims before rise to the Pyrenees. His quarter the Portuguese Sephardic Jews of Marana which were running here from prosecutions of Inquisition in the 16th century, and brought with themselves on the south of France secrets of production of chocolate also located. Bayonne's chocolate became for the first time known in France in 1615, on the occasion of marriage of the Spanish Infanta Ana Austriaca with the King Louis XIII. Today Bayonne is also famous for quality of the chocolate. After the revolution these Portuguese families were recognized by citizens of France. Among them was many druggists, ship owners and wholesale dealers. This quarter are located. Saint-Esprit's Church constructed on ruins of the Roman Prioratство which several constructional elements are present at her modern building. The church is brought to the level joined by the King Louis XI at the end of the 15th century. Magnificent Gothic curved arches and choruses are decorated by the wattled pattern and medallions peculiar to style of the burning Gothic style of that era. Saint Irene's relics are stored in church. Bayonne Station. The citadel constructed by the military engineer Vauban in the 17th century. Bayonne's synagogue constructed in 1837. In this territory the France's first Spanish bullfight was organized on August 21, 1853 thanks to what Bayonne has the status of, the oldest city of a bullfight in France, today. Modern Bayonne sources as here I settled down ancient Roman lie in the quarter of Grand Bayonne. Here the historic center of the city and also his shopping center is located. The area of Place de la Liberté is the oldest in the city. In her paving, the coats of arms of Aquitaine, Labardana and Gascony are presented. Up to the 17th century the city had extensive network of channels which promoted trade. Portneuf Street was the ancient canal. Houses with gallery passages on this street are built on the pile bases, and are considered as the most beautiful in the city. Their wooden walls and trellised shutters are painted in red, chestnut, green and blue colors. In former times the embankment of Quai de la Nave served as the place of unloading of a fishing catch. At the end of the embankment there are two towers of ancient Roman strengthenings near the street of Rue Tour de Salt. The street of Rue d'Espagne having high and honorific work of houses with in two windows with high-end balconies and door hammers is considered typical. Quarter is surrounded with an ancient ditch and strengthenings. Aube Street, de la Salle and the Boulevard du Rempart La Chalette are located on the place of the ancient drain ditch. Quarter of Petit Bayonne. It is the busiest quarter of the city. Initially in 1152, this territory was sold to bishops as the free harbour. Later Vauban included this quarter in the uniform project of strengthenings. The territory of the quarter also had extensive network of channels which served as transport arteries of the city. Houses are typical for all Bayonne. Especially remarkable are on embankments of Quai des Corsairs and Quai Galipiri. This quarter became a haven for a great number of the Spanish Basques after establishment of a Frankism in Spain. This quarter the Museum of Basques, the Museum of Bonello, Art Museum, the New Lock and also one of the oldest pilot in the Basque country are located. Transport. Bayonne is located at crossing of Highway A. Landesite to Buriet. And high-speed departmental road D which connects to Highway A, connecting, thus, Bayonne with Toulouse. To get to Bayonne, it is possible to use 3 departures from Highway A, No. 6 No. 5.1 and No. 5. Before through Bayonne there passed Highway 10 which connected Paris with Vendôme, however now this route is transferred to category of the departmental road. 810. The railway station of Bayonne is located in the quarter of Saint-Esprit. It is the large station on the Bordeaux-Irun line. Also the station is the terminal station on lines Toulouse, Bayonne and Bayonne-Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. Through Bayonne there pass the high-speed trains TEV, the trains intercities, including night, and also trains of regional network Terrace Aquitaine. In the direction of Andai, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, Dax, Bordeaux, On and Tarbes. Bayonne is served by the airport of Biarritz-Anglet-Bayonne which is located in the territory of the neighbouring communes of Anglet and Biarritz. Bayonne is served by 11 routes, plus 1 night bus network Chronopolis which connects the city with other communes of agglomeration. Anglet, Biarritz, Bidar, Bucco, Saint-Pierre-de-Riube and Tarnos. Culture and historical heritage. He names of the city of Bayonne occurs the word bayonet joint. Bayonet. On a legend exactly here in 1641 the bayonet for a gun was invented. Fastening by means of which the bayonet fastened on a trunk was called bayonet. Languages. Bayonne's inhabitants spoke a Gascon dialect since the Middle Ages when there was this dialect of Occitan, and up to the beginning of the 20th century. All official documents of the city of the period of the Middle Ages are executed on this dialect. The map of 7 Basque provinces made in 1863 by the linguist Louis-Lucien Bonaparte shows that Bayonne didn't enter the Basque linguistic area. During process of formation of departments in France, Bayonne was included in so-called hybrid department, the Lower Pyrenees. The department is renamed into the Atlantic Pyrenees on October 10, 1969. Included Bayonne, the Basque provinces of Labardin, the Lower Navarre and Zubara, and also a thin strip of the Gascon territories located in the Lower Adura Current despite protests of members of Parliament of Labardin. Country people in this department. The tough policy of Frenchifying at the beginning of the 20th century led to decline of Gascon language in Bayonne, who was separated from Gascon lands territorially and in whom few inhabitants spoke Gascon. Nevertheless, Gascon language didn't disappear completely, as Bayonne remained the city of double culture and also because of her geographical location. At a boundary between Gascony and the Basque lands. Thus, on a facade of the mayor's office of Bayonne, 2 flags continue to flutter. Gascon and Basque. In the territory of the commune, trilingual indexes are used. French/Basque/Gascon. Bayonne's holiday. These days of annual city festivities all put on in white red clothes and under characteristic music walk on the city. These days the most significant competitions in a national game of Basques in a ball to the pilot are held. The La Rio Jazz Festival, which succeeded the Jazz au Remparts Festival. Bullfights are arranged throughout all summer. Traditions of Tauromachy in Bayonne are the longest in France, therefore bullfights in Bayonne enjoy the most wide popularity in the country. The custom of the running of the bulls when cars and bulls are issued on Bayonne streets is regulated by the municipal resolution of 1283. The operating Bayonne's arena, opened in 1893, is the most capacious in the territory of the big southwest of France. More than 1,000 places. Every year on this arena about 12 bullfights are organized. Also for summer months the arena accepts a little. Bayonne is a member of Association of the French Cities of a Bullfight. Theatre. The Bayonne's Theatre, together with the Scenic Platform in Bucco, since 1990 has the status of national theatre. It is awarded by the Ministry of Culture of France and is known under the general name Scene National Bayonne, Sud Aquitaine. National Theatre Bayonne, the Southern Aquitaine. The theatre is located on the area of Place de la Liberté, in one building with city administration. Bayonne is remarkable the medieval city planning with accurately marked streets and the constructions of that era which remained more or less fully. Defensive strengthenings, the cathedral, the monastery, vaults and so on. The period from 16th to the 19th century is noted by construction in Bayonne of a large number of luxurious mansions which were owned, as a rule, by members of the professional corporations very active in Bayonne. These houses demonstrate rough trade and port activity of the city. Civil architecture. The New Lock. The English strengthenings of the 13th century, to whom in the 15th century at the French King Charles VII built a new complex of constructions. The Old Castle. is built in the 11th century by Le Bourdons Viscounts. And this lot collected repayment for release of the King Francis I, who was held in captivity in Madrid by the Emperor Charles V after the Battle of Pavia in 1525. Here is the prisoner Dubelin, waiting for repayment at a rate of card livres contained France. Sotomayor, the residence bought by the Emperor Napoleon in May 1808 for personal means from brothers Marquefaux, the prosperous Jewish dealers living in the quarter of Saint-Esprit. At the same time he bought a nearby manor of Saint Michel. The building was destroyed by the fire in 1825, and it is still possible to see his ruins on the road conducting in Camboulabin right after Bayonne's hospital. The citadel and city strengthenings constructed by the famous military engineer Vauban, where 7 portals and a poterne are arranged. Saint Leon's Fountain. Strengthenings in the quarter of Petit Bayonne. Verkwerkevie houses. 130 volts since an ancient Roman era. Set of the remains of Roman strengthenings which became a part of the buildings built from above. Numerous houses, nobly and private mansions of the 14th and 16th, 19th centuries. River embankments of Niam. Houses of the 19th century. The mayor's office on the area of Place de la Liberté. Contains the auditorium. The former movie theater, which became after reconstruction by theater. Religious heritage. Virgin Mary's Cathedral. It is included in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List in 1998 as a component of the Way of Street. James in France. This Lancet Cathedral, in style of the burning Gothic style, began to be built in 1213 and finished in the 15th century. In the 19th century the cathedral was added with 2 bell towers 85 meters high. Relics of the patron Bayonne of Saint Leon are stored in cathedral. From south side of cathedral adjoins it, constructed in 1240. Long time served as the cemetery, and now in there were niches with tombs. Church of the Holy Spirit, the remains of the giant church founded by the King Louis XI and constructed on more ancient construction. Parish Church Saint Andre, in whom there is Leon Bon's picture. Parish Church of Saint Etienne. Gastronomy. Bayonne, in addition, is known in the world on the gamins of the same name. Now Bayonne's gammon is protected by the Certificate of Geographical Origin of AGP. According to this certificate, Bayonne's gammon has to be produced with observance of the following conditions. Pigs have to be grown up in the southwest of France. 22 departments from Dao-Sèvres to East Pyrenees. Pork has to be processed in the valley of the Adour River. Gammon is salted by dry salt from salterns of the pool of Adour. The minimum term of endurance is 7 months. In the Basque country to grow up pigs, and in particular black Basque pigs, began in the 1968 years to resist 2 consequences of deep crisis in agriculture. Winds, the hair dryers especially dry in this region, promote penetration of salt in gammon. In Bayonne on Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays there take place fairs of gammons to which the city gave the name. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.